Good evening and welcome to the Carnegie Town Hall. This meeting of the Sioux Falls City Council will begin in a few moments. The City Council meets on the first, second, and third Tuesday of each month at 7 o'clock p.m. and serves as the city's policy-making and legislative body. Each meeting is governed by Robert's Rules of Order unless those guidelines conflict with city ordinance or charter. City Council meetings offer an opportunity for citizens to speak directly to their elected representatives. Those in attendance are invited to address the Council during the public input segment at the beginning of the agenda. At that time, any issue that is not subject to formal action later in the agenda can be addressed. Testimony that concerns a resolution or an ordinance's second reading is only allowed when those specific agenda items are being addressed by the Council. When addressing the Council, citizens should speak directly into the microphones at the podium and state their names for the record after being recognized by the chair. To accommodate and respect all viewpoints, citizen comments are limited by ordinance to no more than 5 minutes each. Comments should be respectful and focused on providing new information that will benefit the Council's deliberative process. The chair reserves the right to limit the number of speakers. City Council meetings are broadcast live on CityLink and online at www.siouxfalls.org. Information regarding the City Council, its committees, meetings, briefings, and members is available by visiting www.siouxfalls.org/council or by calling the Council office at 605-367-8085. Thank you for your interest in Sioux Falls City Government.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. It is Tuesday, December 20th, and we certainly thank you, everybody, for watching tonight or being in attendance tonight. Would like to introduce you to your City Council.
Council Member Selberg.
Here.
Starr. Staley.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Erpenbach.
Here.
Kylie. Here. Neitzert.
Here.
Rolfing.
Here.
Councilors, thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate it. In Sioux Falls, we start our City Council meetings with an invocation. And back once again is Dr. Ron Tottingham. He often will lead us in this prayer, this invocation, this blessing. He is from Empire Baptist Temple here in Sioux Falls. What we'd ask you to do is to just stand, please, for the invocation, and then remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Ron, welcome back.
I get tired of hearing me say this when I come, but I want to tell you how much I appreciate the work you do here, your families and everything else. It's a great city, and it's because of a lot of what you do. So you're worth praying for sure. Our Father, thank you tonight for your blessings to us and to this city and to these commissioners and to our mayor. I pray that you bless them very much tonight and watch over them, all the things they have to do. They get everything from south to north to east to west. And all the comments from good, bad, and indifferent, give them the kind of a spirit and strength to be able to handle that, and we will make the decisions that continues to make this a good city and a great city so that everybody can come here and have a quality of life. Bless them very special, and bless the meeting tonight in a special way. In Jesus' name, amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilors, thank you very much. We'll now go to our consent agenda. Any motions or changes to that?
Move to approve, Erickson. Second.
Councilor Erickson's made a motion to approve our consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Staley. If there is no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council Member Selberg.
Yes.
Starr. Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Council, that has passed 7-0. Our regular agenda tonight, any changes to that?
Move to approve Erickson. Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Erickson's made a motion to approve our regular agenda tonight, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Selberg.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
That has also passed 7-0. Thank you. Again, welcome. Really pleased that you joined us on this holiday week. This is a great opportunity for you to engage the council on any topic that is of interest to you. If it is an agenda item later on, a second reading, we'd ask you to wait for that. Otherwise, just come on forward. Really just two things we ask. Introduce yourself to the people of our town by giving us your name. And then if you could keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, the council would appreciate that. Folks, anybody interested? Welcome. Mr. Colby?
Bob Colby. Usually we think of this time of the year as getting a little more with Santa Claus and all the rest that goes with that, but it's gotten to be more of a political statement. I wish to congratulate the Honorable Mayor for becoming the Bernie Sanders of South Dakota. And but you don't have to be an independent to be independent, and some of you might attest to some people who stand at this podium as being somewhat independent. It's kind of interesting now that we've had the Electoral College vote and that this is supposed to be a mandate for the incoming president. When you think of almost 75% of the people did not vote for that person, but that's typical of an American election. Though that individual did lose the popular vote, did win the Electoral College, and we'll see how that affects their thought process going into their term of office. One interesting thing that crossed my mind the other day was, I just wonder how former Governor Bill Janklow and now Donald Trump, upcoming president, how that interaction would have played out. That is something that would be kind of like a chess game. Who would win and on which side would they be? One time, we just did the Pledge of Allegiance, and maybe a little historic background on that would be appropriate. There was Colonel George Bulk, a Civil War veteran, came up with a pledge in 1887, and it was published in the Youth Companion magazine. Francis Bellamy, a 37-year-old Baptist socialist minister. Either of those two guys might have been called bigots in today's language. He came up with the Pledge of Allegiance in time for the Columbian Exposition, thought that there needed to be a new shot of patriotism after the Civil War because things were kind of falling off, and he came up with this: I pledge allegiance to my flag and republic, for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And this was to be a pledge that was to be used by all countries, not just the United States, but all countries. Well, in 1923, we added the flag word to the pledge. 1954, Ike and the Congress added under God. And most people don't remember that there was a salute that went with that. And it was to put your hand in a military salute and then raise your hand to the flag as you said that, and then either put it beside you or over your heart. Guess what happened during World War II? They thought this was a little bit too much like Hitler's, and so that was dropped, much to the consternation of some organizations like DAR. Now, they had fear that these new immigrants coming into our country were going to be less than patriotic, these waifs, these uneducated young kids, and that's what the Pledge of Allegiance was for children, and we use it as adults, and we'll go from there. Anyhow, there was a big push to get the pledge in all kinds of schools, but they also had a little tag with it. This was to sell flags to the schools. sell flags. The Pledge of Allegiance was to sell flags because most of the schools didn't have them, and they offered flags if you used the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, there are some people who would say that we should, mandatory say the Pledge of Allegiance, and Chief Justice William O. Douglas said there is no litmus test. You cannot force anybody to say it. You cannot force them to sign or swear that they are going to be a loyal citizen. That's part of the unique system that we have of freedom. Now, I asked one of my county commission friends, I said, we need a better, we need a better pledge. And Carol Tweet said, think you can write one? I said, yes, I think anybody could be able to write one. I think it would be more appropriate to say, I pledge allegiance to the Constitution of the United States of America. I pledge to support the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of assembly. I shall fight all foes of the United States, either foreign or domestic. May the flag of the United States of America long wave over the land of the free and home of the brave.
Mr. Colby, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council? Welcome. Come on forward, sir. Welcome.
Here it is again. Greetings. I'm David Zokaitis, and I'm here to speak about public speaking. I happen to think that the people that come up here, regardless of who we are, we should show some respect and some decency. And every now and again, there's a problem with that. A couple of times within the last month, city employees have been in this vicinity and speaking to the council, but being a little weak on respect. Now, when that happens, I'd like to make a recommendation to the mayor here that he pause the meeting and take the guilty party aside where they can talk in private to avoid any kind of public shaming, and then, have the guilty party come back up here and get back to work. I think that's the best way to approach this particular problem, because then you've addressed it immediately. There's no lingering of bad feelings. It's resolved immediately. And who's ever not doing so well, they get to learn the error of their ways, and then the meeting goes chugs right along. Now, I've been up here before talking about public speaking, and I've put some notes together that hopefully you can find something good to do with. You could post them on the website, you could put them over there on the table, and help people get a better feel for what it's like to be a public speaker and how to do it well. Oh, and I must say that I'm really glad that the City of Sioux Falls has this public input. It's a marvelous way for citizens and elected officials to interact. Great idea. My draft public speaking guidelines has this directive here that people should know what they're doing and why. They should understand their goals and not be up here to let off too much steam, because then things don't work very well. And public speakers should try to be calm, whether we are council members or city officials or just guys running off the street. We should focus on few points so that we can make some progress. Oh, and it's important to look at the big picture. If you're overly focused on one small detail, you lose what's surrounding things, and then it's really hard to figure out what's going on in the world. It doesn't work very well that way. Now, here's a bit of a little apology. I know things don't always get done. People lose track, so I want speakers to know that they may have to come up here more than once to get their point across. Oh, and here's that slightly tongue-in-cheek thing that gets everybody to chuckle a little bit. Politicians are people too. Mutual respect. Oh, and if the public presenters want to practice, I'm sure they do a better job. I certainly practice. Oh, and of course, we only have 5 minutes. Meeting has to get done on time. I like to close with a little bit of natural beauty. Here's an image on the bike trail down by Barney's. We've got trees and a river, a little bit of ice. It's pretty. And we should all remember that there is truth and beauty and goodness upon the earth and try to enjoy it when we find it. And that's it. Good evening.
Thank you, David. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council? Sir, welcome. Come on forward, sir. Good to have you here. You're welcome.
They even make podiums too short for people.
You're fine. You're fine, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Salman Barwari. I'm from Kurdistan of Iraq. And I don't have any political statement, but I have a little complaint about the city snowplow removal. I have got blocked in last couple days ago between 2.5, maybe about 3 foot of snow on my driveway. And I've had a couple of surgeries done in my shoulder, so it took me about 3 hours. I didn't even make a dent in it, and I had to pay somebody $50 to come over to clean it for me. So my question is, I thought we had this gate laws passed, so when the plow comes through the streets, and especially places like that, they put down the gate so they don't block people out, and this is a lot of snow I have on my driveway. I live on a 1204 South McDougall Circle. McDougall is 2 words, M-A-C, and then D-O-U-G-A-L-L, Circle. In west side of Sioux Falls, 57106 is the zip code. And so it was just really rough day for me, and I just didn't know what really to do. And somebody suggested, I said, well, why don't you just bring it to the city council members? Maybe they have a solution for that. So hopefully maybe we can avoid that, hopefully, from happening. And I pray and hope, that we'll be able to do that, because that thing's, I had at least, and then when you look at my neighbor over there, I took one of the picture. I made a dent in it before I even took these pictures, actually. And so there was a lot of snow. And then, so I am in a circle. When they go around, and they come from the right to left, and then the left is my driveway. And they just left it there and took off. So I appreciate any help I can get, and thank you so much for your time.
Mr. Zellman, thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind just giving your name and contact information to any of these folks over here,
Sure.
We'll follow up right away.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Great testimony. Appreciate it.
Scott Erisman, Sioux Falls. I was watching a video not too long ago. It was a child psychologist talking about the power of the word no, and how the problem with a lot of kids these days is their parents don't tell them no. And so anytime they ask for something, their parents give it to them. And slowly, as they get older and older and older, they get more and more stuff, and the word no means nothing to them. And you could call it being spoiled or whatever. But this child psychologist said that it is probably one of the most important words you should learn as a parent, and when you are young, to use the word no. Now, pretty surprising, because most people associate the word no with negativity. I do not. I believe there's positive things and there's negative things in the world. And I don't believe words have an impact on what is positive and what is negative. It's actions. This morning, Mr. Mayor was on the Greg Belford show. And he said he was disappointed in the council over the smoking ban because they didn't show any leadership because they voted no against the smoking ban. Now, I look at this quite opposite. Does it show leadership when you all vote yes and go along with someone's wishes? That's kind of the herd mentality. That's not leadership at all. That's just kind of going along with the flow. But I will say this, in the end, what the council may lack in leadership, they make up in courage, because It's not easy standing up to a bully. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Truly appreciate that. Great job. Anybody else? Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Josh Kaiser,
Welcome, Josh.
and I agree with you guys on the smoking ban on city property, but citywide smoking ban, I'm against that. It's not right. We should be able to smoke in our cars and other places. I can see around kids and parks, but not the bike trails either. Because you're not right there with kids while you're smoking as you're riding your bicycle. Because that's what I do. But that's all I have to say on that.
Good job, Josh. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, and
Go ahead.
at Jazz Fest, you're gonna, if you do that, have this no smoking on parks, the attendance is gonna go down. Because I know a lot of my friends, they go out there, smoke, drink, and have fun. Then if you're gonna do that smoking ban on city-owned properties, you shouldn't have alcohol sales at Jazz Fest or the Denny Sanford Premier Center. So, that's all.
Thanks, Josh. Have a good night, sir. Folks, welcome.
Hello, Lynette Buckmiller again. We are here tonight to urge you to please vote no on 5829-2016 rezone from RD1 residential to C2 commercial, allowing additional storage units constructed in our neighborhood. We have other issues that have not been resolved, and now storage units will be encroaching our properties. We feel the 5829-2016 rezone will open a Pandora's box of commercial businesses being constructed in our neighborhood. Additional storage units in our area will depreciate the value of our home. The existing storage units are already close enough, and the trees on the property of 4801 and 4901 East Grant Street separate the commercial from the residential. These new storage units will be right on top of us, and 30 feet of trees is not a sufficient buffer, even with a 6-foot fence. Potential resale will be hindered, and there will be a 5 to 10% hit on our property value. We have drainage issues in our area, and additional storage units would intensify the problem. The current land absorbs some of the rainfall and moisture. The runoff from the rain and snow flows from the south to the north to our property. The massive amount of landfill to the north of our property prohibits the natural flow of the water to the wetlands, deterring it along our property. Storage units and blacktop do not absorb water. Consider the downpours Sioux Falls has experienced. Okay, picture one. Okay. This is the downhill grade to our house. The storage units would be on even higher ground than they are now. Okay, next picture. This is a result of runoff. There's even a trench my husband dug out. In the past, this has been halfway up our driveway. Okay. This is runoff from a snow melt at 41 degrees. What you're looking at is a frozen water that was running the previous day. Since we've moved into our neighborhood, additional storage units were constructed to the south, landfill is dumped to the north, and our property is landlocked because the city vacated all the streets around us and then would not approve the placement of Taylor Circle. All of these are property loss value for us, and so would additional storage units. Jesse has been removing snow from East Grant Street for approximately 2 city blocks for over a decade. This is a city right-of-way. When we retained an attorney for our landlocked property, the city required the developers to put in the streets. They are rezoning 4801 and 4901 East Grant Street to construct storage units. This is a development. Just this weekend, they entered and accessed this property on the corner of Grant and Detroit. Also at that time, if we wanted to go north from our property, we would have at our cost had to put in a hard surface road all the way to the dead street of Taylor. Maintenance and upkeep would have been our responsibility. The language the engineer used was, this would be a new driveway, it would need to be approved by the city, conform with city code requirements, and be hard surfaced. So that's our house there, and we would have had to blacktop all where I have that, yep. Therefore, if you approve the rezone and do not require the remaining portion of East Grant Street to be developed, the developer should at least be required to hard surface the current gravel road, install an 8-foot privacy fence instead of a 6-foot, and the row of the tree should be at least 15 feet tall. The newly constructed storage units should have painted siding and asphalt shingles. They should not be pole buildings like the existing storage units. Of course, we do not want the rezone. We're good people, we care about our neighborhood, we care about our home. We know the owners of these storage units subcontracted for the city, and we hope this has no bearing on your decision. We hope you diligently consider all our concerns and issues. Twin homes bring neighbors and friends. Ask yourself, if this was my neighborhood, if this was my home, would you want storage units that close? Please vote no on 5829-2016 rezone. We've suffered enough property value loss. Please take a few minutes and come and drive by. The aerial does not do it justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
I just want to show a few pictures here. And explain what I feel like we got stepped on, stomped on, and my name is Jesse Buckmore. I live at 200 South of LaSalle. I'm Lynette's husband. I feel like we've been stepped on, stomped on, and now we're getting kicked. Is kind of what it feels like. On this first picture here, this is from my driveway looking up. As you can see, we're looking at storage units. If you look at the overhead view of what if you got, do we have that anywhere? I don't have an overhead. They want to build more storage units, pretty much eliminate all them trees that you're seeing there on the next picture. There's another picture. What trees they're planting there are about 10 inches, maybe a foot tall. They're calling that their buffer zone. You can't see because of the shadow there, but there's a 6-foot fence back there. Not the fence you can see in plain view, but the 6-foot fence that got back by the building is the 6-foot fence. I'm under the impression is what they're going to move out and have as their privacy fence or their security fence. It's no divide, I guess, from residential to commercial. Next picture. There's another picture. If you look again, this is from the road up there. This is not that fence you're looking there, but there's a fence in the back there, a 6-foot fence that they're referring to as being their 6-foot fence. It does nothing to hide, as I guess the word hide or divide, the buildings from view of residential. Residential is right behind me where I'm taking that picture. And this picture here is over on out on Ellis Road. I showed this last time I was here. You drive by these, if some of these, anybody out here drive by there, you drive right by there, you wouldn't even know there was storage units. The next picture, that's what they look like up close, and that's not even half of them. They go all the way around there. They got asphalt shingles, as my wife said, and they're painted siding on there, and you can see the residential in the back there. Like I say, you drive by, I think you know about this place. They're like, it's what you want for storage units. They do the same purpose as what these pole buildings do. They store stuff. And this is what they got for a buffer on the south side of that. They got twin homes. Last time we were at the planning meeting, the petitioner, he mentioned that his pole buildings, and I hate to use the word pole building, they're tin buildings. He referred to them being the same look as what a twin homes look like. I see no resemblance there myself. I don't know what he was thinking there. This is a picture, and go back to the first picture. This picture here is an old picture. You see the trees there? Now go to one of my first pictures. A lot of those trees are gone because they've systematically sold them. I think that's what they do. They sell trees. That's fine. We never said nothing. We never really saw the buildings because you can't see them on that top picture. They're out of sight, out of mind. That's a word I want to use in talking about divide. Just give me a picture.
when you talk about their fence they got, if you look at their plan, they got this, from what I'm reading, they got this 6-foot fence they got there, that's up there, 1 foot behind their new buildings, 1 foot. If you got a 15-foot building and you put a 6-foot fence 1 foot from the building, you're seeing more building than you're seeing fence. What is this doing for privacy? This is doing nothing. This is out of sight, out of mind. If you have a 6-foot fence, and plus this is on the high ground, the closer you get up, the higher the ground, as you can see up there. I'm using sight of line. Now, if you have an 8-foot fence or a 6-foot fence and you got a 15-foot building back here and you got this up here, you're not seeing the buildings. That's what I call a divide. They're not, this doesn't make sense what they're doing. It's not going to look right. If you drive up there, you'll see they're actually close enough right now. The whole thing up there and that whole development, bottom line is, it's zoned for twin homes. If twin homes go in, then the road is going to go in, a finished, improved curb and gutter road. If they do what they want to do, they're going to use the term primary access, which they won't have, so they're going to get out of putting this road in or be responsible for it. My question is, why was a dead-end road put in just to the east there with no intentions of it ever going in, if this is what the plan's going to be? What plan are we following here? It don't make no sense. If they get, essentially what they're working on is a free pass on this road. The whole area needs to be developed. A road needs to be done. The only way the road's going to get done is if that's residential. That's all I think I got to say. But.
Thank you, Mr. Buckmiller. Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Matt Kleinschmidt. I'm here also to talk about the 5829 rezoning issue. I'm here to represent my grandparents. They're not here able to speak today. Just going to read their message real quick and add one quick comment. After discussion with the City Hall, my wife and I are not in favor of the RD1 residential to C2 commercial. We live at 4900 East Grand Street, and these storage units would be right across the street from us. The storage units would greatly depreciate our property value and increase snow drifting along Grant Street. I currently provide the plow truck for snow removal, a service which I provided, but should be provided by the city for East Grand Street for the last several years. The proposed barrier is inadequate, and the current trees and spacing between our property and the current storage units need to remain. We believe improvements to our neighborhood are needed instead. Please leave 4801 and 4901 East Grand Street as residential. When we came to the rezoning meeting, there's a couple comments that I just want to touch on real quickly. The first comment was that these storage units, if installed, would be similar to an accessory garage units on a townhome. And while they may be similar in height, they will not be similar in appearance. The construction of an accessory garage unit for a twin home or a townhome is going to be with asphalt shingles and LP siding, like the ones on the pictures that Jesse had shown. The pole barn storage units that are proposed are going to be pole barns with sheet metal as siding and sheet metal roofs. These do not have the similar appearance as a twin home garage unit would have. The second point that I would like to point out or touch on that was made in the last zoning meeting sorry, one second here. Was that the townhomes would be no different than the pole barns. And to make a point on that, I guess the townhomes would bring in neighbors to the area and finish out the residential community that's in that area that we were talking about. There's been previous developments to the north and to the east that have been shut down that are still pending. But by instituting or approving this rezoning issue and storage units being built on 4801, 4901, you would essentially halt any future plans for residential because of the commercial buildings that are being added to that area. Also, the one last point I would like to make is that currently East Grand Street is a gravel road. I would encourage you all to drive out there and take a look at this property, at this area that we are speaking of, because the gravel road is essentially in the center area, is in town city limits. So if you take a second, take a look at it, that is a street that should be plotted, that should be paved with curb and gutter, and is not. It is stopped up to a central point, and that all residential developments have been stopped in that area. There's a lot of potential for development, and there should be a paved street on East Grand Street. Thank you.
Folks, welcome.
Tim Stanger. I was going to talk good about the snow gates because everybody in my neighborhood didn't have to shovel. I thank the citizens of Sioux Falls for voting to be able to get the snow gates, and I thank the city for putting the money towards them to put them on, the snow removal equipment. They did work real good. I guess the question is I've been an independent for 7 years now, and I decided that I didn't want to be in the party I wanted to be in. But I wasn't able to figure that overnight. It took a long time to figure out which party I wanted to be in and what party I didn't want to be in, and obviously I'm an independent conservative. I don't really think that it was a press conference that needed to tell everybody that I'm going to be an independent, because I never even told any of my friends what I was, because it really and truthfully is none of their business. But people ask me, well, why would the mayor go and do that? I told them, I said, read in between the lines. And they say, well, what's he going to do, run for governor, or is he going to run for representative? I told him, I said, with a D behind his name, I said, he ain't going to make it.
Anybody else have any constructive comments? This will be good.
Bruce Danielson, Sioux Falls. Actually, I was going to start with something else, but I went to the Parks Board meeting today to show them how easy it is to record a meeting. I set up a couple cameras, but I also showed them this one, just like I was here last week and showed you, and gave them an idea of how hard it was to record the meeting. It can go down to the IT department, $30, $60, $100 handy cam, and they've got the meeting covered, and the sound quality is pretty decent. So I wanted to just let you know I was there today, and it'll be up online. I also got to learn about the top 10 list that the Parks Board, or the Parks Department gave to the Parks Board today, and saw who they were electing as their leaders. So that was just another part of it today. But as long as we're talking about snow gates, my property was missed again. I don't know why my street has such a problem with getting snow gates to work on it, but I had a pretty good drift in front of my property. So the thing that I just witnessed as I walked up here, I wasn't going to touch on it, but the more I think about it, it really bothers me. I sent an email to everybody that's sitting up here, the council members, talking about disrespect, and the disrespect that those of us in the audience felt for the way things turned out last week when Tracy Turbeck dissed Teresa Staley for asking very legitimate questions we all wanted answers to. And I've asked several of the members up here these same questions in the last few weeks, as well as many other people I know. And to have Tracy Turbeck diss Teresa the way that he did was extremely disrespectful. And then as I'm walking up here, the disrespect that I just saw you, Mr. Mayor, give Tim Stanga was not called for at all. And I find that to be something that we don't need in here. Besides that, now, yesterday there was a press conference I went to. And the press conference, did Tracy Turbeck, since he was at the meeting, Tracy Turbeck, did he take vacation time yesterday?
Council Chair Rolfing has asked you to stop. Thank you. Have a good night, sir.
You're just being as disrespectful as everything else that's going on, Rex.
Folks, did anybody else want to address the council? Welcome. Sir, I apologize. You've already had your opportunity. I apologize. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Folks, did anybody else want to address the council on another topic? Very good. Thank you. Item number 15, please.
Item 15, New 2017 retail wine license for GL Management LLC, Great Life at Suburban Lanes, 2621 South Spring Avenue, cup not required. Number 16, new 2016-17 retail malt beverage license for Kurt Zant, Abir, Ethiopia, 3101 West 41st Street, Suite 105, cup not required. Item 17, new 2017 retail wine license for Kurt Zant, Abir, Ethiopia, 3101 West 41st Street, Suite 105, cup not required. Number 18, transfer of 2016 retail liquor license with Sunday sales certificate and video lottery terminals from Loyal Order of the Moose, Moose Lodge, 1926 Burnside Street, to Loyal Order of the Moose, Moose Lodge, 5013 North Cliff Avenue, cup not required, pending final inspections per Fire, Health, and Building Services. Number 19, renewal of 2017 retail liquor license for Loyal Order of the Moose, Moose Lodge, 5013 North Cliff Avenue, pending final inspections per Fire, Health, and Building Services.
Good evening, Jamie Palmer with licensing. Item 15 is a new license request. The applicant currently holds a retail beer license at this location and wishes to also sell wine. This license, if approved, would allow them to do so. Item 16 and 17, I need to request a motion to withdraw per the applicant's request due to location issues. The explanation and information for items 18 and 19 are a little lengthy, so please bear with me. On December...
Councilor Erickson.
Can I make, sorry to interrupt, can I make a motion to go ahead and withdraw number 18? Is that correct? That's the one to withdraw?
16 and 17.
17, I'm sorry. I'll make a motion to withdraw 16 and 17.
Thank you, Councilor Erickson's made a motion to withdraw items 16 and 17. Councilor Neitzer seconded that. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Selberg. Yes. Starr.
Yes.
Staley. Yes. Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzer. Yes. Rolfing.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I
Yes.
go ahead and make a motion to approve number 15, please?
Thank you, Councilor. Is there a second, please?
Second, Rolfing.
Seconded by Council Chair Rolfing. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzer. Yes. Rolfing.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I
Council
do need to
Erickson.
recuse myself for items 18 and 19.
Thank you, Councilor. Jamie?
On December 14th of 2014, the Moose Lodge applied for their retail liquor.
Jamie, Mr. Mayor, excuse me, can we do 18 and 19 together, and the applicants are also here?
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, yep. This is, all of this information is for items 18 and 19, sorry.
Okay.
On December 14th of 2014, the Moose Lodge applied for their retail liquor license renewal for 2015. The application is under oath, and it stated that the license was inactive. It's a Class 6 felony to submit a false application. An inactive license means that the South Dakota Department of Revenue physically holds the license in their office until the licensee is ready to begin using it. SDCL 35-1-5 prohibits anyone from selling under an inactive license. On December 4th of 2015, the Moose Lodge submitted their 2016 renewal application. Once again, the application under oath states that the license is inactive. State law allows a renewal so long as the license is used at least 60 days prior to this license expiration date of December 31 of 2016. In June of 2016, applicant and the city discussed a relocation of the retail liquor license premise. Since their last application stated inactive, I explained the 60-day active use requirement. The city told Moose representative that he must submit a checklist to determine if the property that he has chosen was suitable for on-sale alcohol use. A checklist was submitted by the applicant and on July 12th. The week of July 18th, I notified the applicant that the proposed location on 4110 West Maple Street was suitable for on-sale alcohol use. He was informed that he needed to submit a transfer application at that time if he wanted to move forward with that. The application is provided or required by the state, and the form is available on our website as well. The applicant then told the city that it was a tentative location and not finalized, and a transfer application was never received. On September 23rd, the renewal paperwork for the 2017 license was mailed to all applicants with the due date of October 20th of 2016. On October 12th of 2016, the city had not received the renewal paperwork, so I called the applicant. The same day, I spoke with the South Dakota Department of Revenue and learned that the South Dakota sales tax license had been canceled on June 30th of 2014 and had not yet been reinstated. I informed the applicant again about the 60 days active use requirement for the liquor license. The applicant stated that this would be a problem because the liquor license had not been being used, and stated that they had been tied up in litigation. The applicant then asked for an extension or some type of an exemption due to the litigation issue. I was not aware of anything, so I referred him to the South Dakota Department of Revenue. The following week, the city was notified by Jason Evans, who is the Deputy Director of the South Dakota Department of Revenue, and he had stated that he had spoken with the applicant and informed him that the city and state both agree that the license should not be renewed. The applicant called the city the next day, claiming that the Moose Lodge was using the license, stated that the license was only used occasionally during the last year when one of the Moose members would see the applicant's truck parked outside, they could come in for a drink. The city tells him that the active use requirement was not likely met and referred him back to the South Dakota Department of Revenue. The city then called, the city called the Department of Revenue, and he states that the truck parked out in front of the building does not meet that active use requirement. The state has determined that the use described did not meet the regular business hours and open to the public requirement per state law. Normally, liquor licenses not actively used simply lapse. The decision was made in conjunction with the City Attorney's Office and the South Dakota Department of Revenue to bring this before the council with a recommendation of denial from the state and city offices. A new renewal form was requested from the state, and the applicant did come in on November 22nd of 2016 to apply for the renewal and transfer application that's before you this evening. Along with that, he provided a copy of the lease and the floor plan for that new location. The proposed location that he had chosen would be pending building permits being issued and final inspections being completed to comply with the separation requirements, because at that time it did not. City Council has the authority to approve or disapprove a renewal or a transfer application based on suitable person and suitable location per SDCL 35-2-1.2. Suitable person is the issue here. SDCL 35-2-5.3 states that the licensing authority may not reissue a license if the license is not actively used by the applicant during the 2 years preceding the date of the current application. Actively used means the licensed premise was open to the public during regular business hours for the sale and consumption of distilled spirits for at least 60 days during the 2 preceding years. Active use was not met here because applicants admit they have never been open to the public. It's a members-only facility. In conversations with the applicant beginning in October of 2016, he shared with the city and the Deputy Director Evans that members knew if his truck was parked at the building, they could stop for a drink. The state and city, again, do not believe this meets the requirements for being open during regular business hours. This Monday, the applicant shared that the Moose Lodge was open Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. during several months this past year. This likewise does not meet that active use requirement because it was not open to the public for regular business hours. The applicant has not submitted any proof of sales, And again, the applicant does not have a sales tax license. We just confirmed that with the Department of Revenue today at noon. And again, the license applications for 2015 and 16 were signed under oath that they were inactive. SDCL 35-2-25 states a retail liquor license cannot be granted without a sales tax license. And SDCL 10-45-48.1 makes it a Class 1 misdemeanor to engage in business as a retailer without obtaining a sales tax license. For these reasons, it is our recommendation that this license transfer and renewal be denied based on suitable person and the fact that they have not met the criteria clearly outlined in state law. The applicants and their attorney, I believe, are present as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Jamie, thank you. Did the applicant or the attorney want to speak at all? Please come forward, sir.
Good evening. My name is Dave Edwards. I'm an attorney for the Moose Lodge, the Loyal Order of Moose 503 here in Sioux Falls. I'm with the Bright Law Office here in Sioux Falls. Thank you, Jamie, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for hearing this important matter tonight. I had not been familiar with what the Moose Lodge was until recently, when unfortunately they had to hire my office to take care of some legal issues. They started in 1942 in Sioux Falls, and it's my understanding that they've had an active liquor license continuously since 1942. Their activities in Sioux Falls have declined. Their membership has declined. It's an older group, but they are trying to rejuvenate the group and reestablish themselves. They've looked at 2 different new locations, as Jamie said. What the Moose Lodge had done in years past was they would hold dances. They had a dance floor and they would have bands. They would have pool leagues and dart leagues. Some of those events were geared toward teenagers and things of that nature. That's some of what the Moose Lodge has done. They're a fraternal organization. It's a Chicago-based nationwide organization, and they do community service events. Like I said, it's been a little bit less lately, but there are reasons for that. Today with me is Gary Zitterich, a gentleman over there, and also Bob Kogel. They are 2 of several of the board of directors of the Moose Lodge. I had put together an outline, if you would indulge me, to go through some of what's been happening the last couple of years that led to tonight's hearing. And it really what we're hoping to explain to the council is that there have been some unfair circumstances pushed upon the Moose Lodge. They're not litigators. They're not seeking to get into court, and that's what they found themselves in. And so what had happened is that the property on Burnside, it wasn't good for them anymore. It was too big. It was too expensive to operate. They needed something smaller. So they wanted to lease the building or lease part of it. And they wanted to sell it and find someplace smaller. They eventually leased a part of the building to a church. It looked to work out great. They would lease half of the building. And then, in fact, 4 of these church members, as the Moose is trying to rejuvenate and get more members, there's 4 younger members of the church that decided to join the Moose Lodge. It sounded great. Then those 4 members took board positions. Then they controlled 4 of the 7 board positions. So the folks that were the directors and are now the directors after a court case, they lost control for a period of time. Then the church agreed with the Moose Lodge to buy the building. The purchase agreement was for $700,000. An interesting thing about this agreement was that one of the persons that became one of these new board members for the Moose that had voting authority, he was also a voting member of the board of directors of the church. He was also the realtor on the deal. And he was also a member of an LLC that purportedly was buying the building and then selling it to the church after that. So in other words, he was a buyer, he was a seller, and he was in the middle as a realtor. The closing was set for August 30th of 2015. Because of some appraisal issues, some financing issues, general trouble caused by some of these conflicts of interest, that closing didn't happen in August. By that time, this church, is my understanding, made an offer to purchase a Sioux Falls school building, the Joe Foss building. And they made an offer to buy that building instead of the Moose Lodge. That was fine with our guys. And they went on and found a different buyer for over $100,000 more. They were giving the church a good deal. Well, the deal to purchase the Joe Foss school fell through for the church. And they came back to the Moose Lodge, and the Moose Lodge said, wait a second, we thought we were done with that agreement. The church didn't like that answer, so the Moose Lodge got sued. Then the church stopped paying rent, so then the Moose hired me to represent them. Then we tried to start an eviction action because the church stopped paying rent. It became a very, I'm going to say a very intense litigation. There were 11 depositions taken. After that intensive discovery, a 4-day jury trial was set. Then we decided to mediate the case. So we mediated the case, we got everybody together at the law firms, and we came to an agreement to sell the building for actually a higher price than the original. The closing was set for September, and as of, well, let me back up a sec. We mediated in May. On July 7th, the church stated its refusal to attend the closing because of a dispute over the dance floor. There's a dance floor in this building. It's portable. It comes apart like a parquet. And we thought, well, we'll just take, my folks would take it with them as personal property. The church didn't like that answer. The Moose said, fine, keep it. But yet the church still said we're in breach, and they threatened to walk away. So I had to make a motion to Judge Long to enforce the settlement agreement. We were ready, willing, and able to close. So we had the hearing to enforce this settlement agreement that the church was trying to back away from on July 21st. Thankfully, Judge Long said, wait a second, you settled the case, you're going to buy that building. So instead of having the trial 4 days later, we actually had the judge say, yes, you've settled the case, go to closing. The closing was held September 2nd. As of August 31st, the church was still threatening not to attend closing, despite that court order compelling performance. And that's just a very brief synopsis of the type of folks and issues that my folks were dealing with. So during this period of litigation, as Jamie explained, the Moose Lodge folks were trying to find new locations. There was that brand new strip mall on Maple Street. That was a little too spendy for them, but it was looked at by the city as far as a new suitable location. After the dust settled on the case, then the Moose Lodge did find a new place to lease on North Cliff, which is the one at issue today for that second agenda item. On those renewal applications, those were signed truthfully. It was inactive. And I've explained the reason why the Moose Lodge was inactive. It wasn't by their choice. Had they closed on time under the original purchase agreement and not been sued for claims which I'm going to tell you I don't believe were valid, had they not gone through that, they would have closed and they would have been right on to either the Maple Street location or somewhere else. And so I can't give you details on what they were or were not doing in terms of sales or sales tax or being open or closed. I can tell you they're not really a public place of business until they have certain events like the dances and so forth. So I'm not here to tell you what they were doing for a 60-day period over the last 2 years. What I'm asking is that the council take a very hard look at this. When you consider these facts, this organization has been in Sioux Falls for 74 years. If this license is not renewed, that's it. There's no more Moose Lodge in Sioux Falls. 74th year will be the last year. If it's not renewed, it will dissolve. And I don't know if that's the greatest thing for these folks or the community. This is a critical decision. The Moose Lodge appreciates your attention to this matter. It is very important. I do disagree with Ms. Palmer. These are a suitable, it is a suitable person to have a license. They've shown that for decades. It's a suitable location. Does anyone have any questions?
David, thank you. Appreciate that. I think is there any other testimony, Dave, that you wanted to have before I go to the council?
I don't have any more testimony. I do have an outline that I vaguely followed during my presentation. I've got plenty of copies in case that needs to be considered.
You want to give those to Jamie? That'll be great, and then she can bring those up. Did any of the other board members want to speak? Otherwise, I'm going to go to the council.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Thank you. Councilors
Thank
or
you.
anybody else want to talk about this particular topic before we go to the council? Councilors? Yes, Councilor Neisert.
Don't go too far, Mr. Attorney. I guess I would like to know, you made the statement that without the sales tax license, the Moose Lodge dissolves. Or, excuse me, the liquor license. I'm sorry about that. Could you explain why that would be?
The Moose Lodge, its most valuable asset is the license. It does not have the funds to buy a license or to go down this path for another year or so trying to find a new location. The time is now. They have a location wrapped up. It's got a lease. It's just subject to the contingency of the transfer of the license. It's a very valuable asset, and they don't have the money to spend to chase another license down, however that procedure works.
And in short, why did the sales tax license not get renewed? Why did that go away?
It was suspended for the same reasons. It was in 2014 when really the movement was, hey, let's find a new location. There was an auction. There was some leftover liquor inventory that they weren't allowed to sell, okay? So was that liquor consumed by some of the members at certain times, maybe after work? Probably. I'm not here to say whether that was a transaction or a day open to the public or not, but that was their story in 2014, was that they were looking to move, and that's why they engaged the real estate folks.
Okay.
Yes, Councilor Starr.
Yep, please. Help me, Dave. I'm listening. I've heard Jamie's questions or statement of what the facts that happened. Tell me how I look past that. I mean, tell me how where we're sitting at in a position as a council, I can look past the not being open for 60 days, not having the license. I'm very sympathetic. It's been a great organization. I've had family members who've been part of the Moose organization in other communities, and tell me where I'm missing, that I have the authority or the ability to, with your law degree, how I could look past this.
Thank you. The authority is there. I think the city council controls or occupies the field when it comes to whether or not to renew a license. And the way I've looked at this, and I jumped into this last night, so I haven't done all the research, but when I look at this, there's some equitable tolling type, legal theories, if you will. What I would say is that when you look at what the Moose Lodge had been through, they had a closing date in 2015 scheduled. Then they had a closing actually occur in 2016. And in between, they just fought. They weren't going to roll over and allow this building to be sold under, unfair circumstances. So they did what they needed to do. We used the court system, and I think we had a good outcome, but it was a 13-month period of delay. And so what I would ask the court, the council to consider is, do we have an equitable tolling or a stay that we can say occurred for a 13-month period of time?
Council Vice Chair Kiley.
Questions for Attorney Feinsley. Okay, it's been stated here that the authority does rest with this council, yet I've heard in Jamie's testimony that it may not renew if they're not active. Their applications, correct me if I'm wrong, their applications for the last 2 years have indicated they're not active. And they haven't had a sales tax license for the 2-year period of time.
Correct.
And also heard that the state has indicated the license should not be renewed. Can you comment on that further, please?
If I may, Your Mayor, thank you. I've been dealing with the liquor laws for probably 20 years, both as a city attorney for Pierre and also for Sioux Falls. And certainly the State Department of Revenue and our office feel the same way, that you are not given discretion under these state statutes in this situation, and I'll explain why. The law first states under SDCL 35-2-5.3 that no licensing authority, and that means the City Council, may reissue any on-sale license issued if the license has not been actively used by the applicant during the 2 years preceding the date of the current application. For purposes of this section, the term actively used means that the licensed premise was open to the public during regular business hours for the sale and consumption of distilled spirits for at least 60 days during the 2 preceding years. The State Department of Revenue and our office are both reading this to mean that you as a city council do not have discretion if that active use requirement is not met. And based on the facts that have been stated by Jamie Palmer tonight and are still not disputed, there is no active use in our estimation. The other law at play is SDCL 35-2-25, which states that no license may be issued unless the applicant has first obtained a sales tax license pursuant to Chapter 10. And what they're asking, the applicant's asking you to do tonight is to ignore those 2 statutory requirements. As this council has learned through the years, the state has preemption on licensing authority regarding alcohol. And certainly those of you who have been active with the South Dakota Municipal League have certainly learned over the years that the cities have very little discretion, if any, regarding alcohol. And I certainly appreciate the comments about the fine institution that the Moose has been over the years. I know Mr. Edwards, he's a good attorney, and I would certainly concur that he has done made a good argument for his client. However, I would respectfully urge that you deny both items 18 and 19 based on these clear state statutes that simply don't allow you, in their words, to look past what happened in order to grant the renewal and the reissuance.
Thank you for that explanation, and I would like to echo your comments about the Moose Lodge and its membership. I can remember my parents going to dances at the Moose Lodge. However, we do have to uphold the law, and it does seem that in this particular case that it's pretty clear, even if we were to make a decision, that the state would override us. So I think I've had enough information. Thank you.
Councilor Seeley.
Well, I have a question, and maybe Jamie, you can help me with this, or the attorney, but before 2014, what were the hours of business operation for the Moose? Is this the way they've always operated when they've had events, or have they?
I'm Gary Zederich. I'm the current administrator at the Moose Lodge. Before we used to be open Monday through Saturday with some Sunday events. Once we had a offer to purchase the property, we made arrangements to auction off all of our personal property with the idea that we were going to buy all new chairs, tables, all new coolers, all new anything that went inside the building was going to be all brand new. So once the deal fell apart, we had no option as to go back to our old ways. We basically just had the building there, and we had our meetings, and we just got together as needed. We had no options. Like I said, we sold all of our tables, we sold all of our kitchen equipment, coolers, everything was gone with the idea we're moving. And then we got caught up in this lawsuit, and it took us about a year, 13 months to get it settled.
And were you aware that this shutdown is going to be happening? I mean, through this
We didn't
time?
plan it. We didn't plan it. We needed to sell the property to have the funds to move on. You know, and I appreciate all the help Jamie's given me. You know, what I realize is you folks don't make the laws. You know, your job is to enforce them, and Jamie was very helpful. I think I became a pain in her butt a couple times, bugging her, but we just, we got caught up in some other issues, and I'm an auto mechanic. I'm not a bartender. I'm not a bar type person. The laws and stuff, I just relied on other people to give me direction, and we just kind of got caught in the middle of a couple of things.
And can I ask Jamie a question?
Sure.
Please? Is there, let's say we vote this down, what are their chances of coming back again sometime and giving new life to the moose, or is that the end?
That would be the end, yes.
Unless they bought a new license.
Correct, yeah, they could buy a new license from someone else. Or get a beer license or wine license.
Council Chair Rolfing?
Yes, I'd like to move approval of this because we're just going to vote and it's yes or no then.
There's been a motion to approve this item. Are these two items? Is that right, David, or just one?
We do two of them? Okay.
Been a motion to approve these two items. It has been seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Councilor Starr?
Yes. Maybe a parliamentary inquiry. Sure. Would it be in order to defer this item 90 days?
If I may.
David.
Councilor Starr, the license would expire on December 31st.
Okay.
So we had discussed with the applicant and also with the State Department of Revenue even today, and there is no way we could have a deferral happen because the license would expire.
Okay. Thank you.
A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
No.
Sorry, did I miss it? We're voting.
Okay, here.
You can change your vote.
Let me
Clarification.
There was a motion to approve these two items. So if you vote yes, that means that you want to approve the liquor license for these entities. If you vote no, that means you don't want to approve the items. So
I misunderstood. My apologies.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, let's start that, please.
Councilmember Selberg?
No.
Starr?
No.
Staley?
No.
Erpenbach?
No.
Kylie?
No.
Nitzert?
No.
Rolfing?
No.
That has failed 0-7. Thank you. Item number 20.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 124, Transportation Services, Subchapter General Provisions, Section 124.012, Transit and Paratransit Fares, to provide youth an opportunity to ride fixed-route bus service at no charge each summer.
Good evening, Jim David, Operations Manager for the City Council. For your consideration tonight is an ordinance that moves the Freedom Pass pilot project to a permanent transit program. This program, which was originally carried the name of Dog Days of Summer, allowed youth to ride fixed route free of charge during the summer. According to Sioux Area Metro, more than 11,000 rides were associated with this program in 2016, a 24% increase from last year. If this ordinance is approved, the Freedom Pass program will be available to youth the summer of 2017. Be happy answering your questions.
Are there any questions for David? Or Jim, rather? This is the second reading, so we will move to the audience. And if is there anyone who would like to visit with council about this? Seeing no one, anyone have a motion?
Move to approve, Erpenbach.
Second.
We have a motion, first and a second. Discussion. Councilor Nitzert.
Not going to be very popular on this one. In this particular case, I think with all respect, a motion might be overruling us a little bit. I've asked multiple people and watched prior meetings on this, and from that I found there's two justifications for doing this: giving kids who might not have transportation a free option, laudable goal, and increasing ridership on the system and creating lifelong riders of mass transit. I haven't found that there's a shred of evidence that this program is increasing ridership or creating long-term riders. We have zero data to prove that ridership is increasing or that we're winning paying customers during the other months. All we have is blind hope on that one. The fact that we've grown ridership in the summer doesn't really tell me anything. I think the purpose of the pilot was to get some reliable data to base a decision on. We don't have any reliable data from what I can tell, so I'm not sure why we're making this permanent yet. So I think it feels good in theory, but I don't see how it helps the transit system. In fact, I think it's counterproductive to the transit system.
Councilor Erickson.
Thank you. I just would encourage my colleagues here to, fellow council members, to support this. Recently, I was at the Municipal League meeting, and I had the privilege to sit next to their mayor, who, in fact, was an advocate and a proponent to have youth ridership free year-round. Oftentimes these kids, if those buses stopped in front of the schools, it was an opportunity for them to get to and from school. Did not replace chipper fees or charges or any of that. It simply was an extra means for some of these students to get to school. I know we're only talking about the summer, but I'm using that as an example, and we had a great conversation back and forth as far as his vision in Rapid City, of all places, but we meet with them frequently, and the impact it has on the community of keeping students out of trouble. It helped on truancy rates. We've also heard a lot about the meals program in the summertime. Oftentimes this is the only meal some of these students will get based on getting there in the summertime. And for that reason, I ask you to support this. I think that we could even potentially go further with this at some point, just seeing the impact it has on a community as such as Rapid City, and that long-term vision, thinking about that. Again, it doesn't replace any of the other things, but if we can allow students, youth, to move about the city, get to the libraries, get to jobs, I think that's a win in the end.
Councilor Urbanbach.
Thank you. I would encourage, maybe, I'm disappointed, honestly, and I hope she's watching. Kathy Brechtelsbauer is not here with her troops of children. That has been one of the great gifts of being involved in this community and understanding the population of folks who do use the buses, especially in the summer when it's those children who are the most needy. That is how the pilot program started. It started with Kathy Brechtelsbauer. It did not come from this council. It came from citizens. This is something that was asked for and, yes, demanded. And we did take it as a pilot, as kind of a backdoor way into it. This is one of those things that needs to happen in this town. That we need to stand up for those folks in the most need in this community. And this is an easy way to do it. We're running those buses anyway. This is an easy way to do it. I'd encourage you to vote yes.
Right next door to you.
Okay.
Me.
Are you, I'm sorry. Councilor Kiley.
Thank you. I too support this ordinance and the change to make it permanent. It is, the intentions certainly are noble, and we're only in the second year. The ability to develop lifelong ridership certainly takes longer than a 2-year period, and so it's obviously a long-term effort, and we know that our transit system needs to increase its ridership, and I think the best place to start would be with the children of our city, to encourage them to use it, to reduce any anxieties associated with it, and eventually, as our city continues to grow, hopefully it's going to result in more adult ridership as well, too. So I encourage support of this.
Councilor Neitzer.
Just to follow up, I'm a big fan of Kathy. I know Kathy. We're not even means testing this. You make $100,000 a year, your kid can get a free bus pass. Again, this is a rounding error. I get that as far as the whole system goes, but we're trying to put it on a system to being sustainable, and this, I think, takes us in the opposite direction. Sometimes feeling good and doing good are not the same thing.
Has there been a motion? Yes. There has been a motion. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert,
No.
Rolfing.
Yes.
That's passed 7-1. Item 21.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota approving a Mid-American Energy Company gas easement.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This involves the downtown rail yard redevelopment land and the Mid-American Energy Company. We've worked with them to find and confirm their active gas lines on those subject parcels. And then we've hired a land surveyor to confirm those locations and develop the plat. This action tonight will place a permanent easement on that development land so then we can communicate that clearly when it is sold in the future. We would ask for your support.
Mark, thank you. Folks, the second reading. Did anybody want to engage the council on this topic? Councilor Nitzert.
So I just want to clarify so I understand. So essentially there's no real easement right now. I mean, there's pipes running through, but there's not an official easement, and we're just clearing that up?
That's right, Councilor. When Burlington Northern owned the land, the way they handled utilities is that they would issue a permit and they would file them at their corporate office. Now that it's owned by the public, and our standard procedure, so it will be recorded and be forever in place, is to place a permanent easement on there, and then it's clearly confirmed as the land is transferred.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Councilor, does anybody want to make a motion on this item?
Point of order. We need
Yes.
public input.
I had asked. No one did.
Nobody
That's
did?
why I
I'm
went to
sorry, I
Councilor
didn't hear that.
Nitzert.
I'm sorry. Make a motion to approve. Sorry. I didn't
thank
hear
you.
that.
Second.
My apologies.
Thank you. Councilor Erickson's been a motion to approve, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. If there's no discussion, roll call, please.
Councilmember Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kylie. Nitzert.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Item 22.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 39, Personnel Regulations and Benefits, Retirement and Pensions.
Tracy.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This ordinance will further the goals of the 2013 pension reforms by protecting the city and taxpayers from higher, more volatile contribution rates to our pension systems in the future. The ordinance will utilize assets that were set aside by the city and intended to pay for retiree health insurance premiums for that very purpose by fully funding a new 115 trust that will meet the city's obligations to pay 50% of the health insurance premiums for those retirees who remain on the city's group health plan. The ordinance will place the remainder of these assets that had been set aside by the city into the pension trust funds. By keeping these remaining assets in the pension trusts, the ordinance will eliminate the risk that these assets will be diverted now or in the future to other uses. Simply put, the movement of this money will align plan assets with plan liabilities. It really puts the money where it will be needed. The ordinance will make no changes to retiree health care benefits that are provided under the plan and make no changes to employee pension benefits that are provided under the plan. Lastly, the ordinance will make language consistent with the current revenue code and make accounting and financial reporting under the ordinance consistent with our current generally accepted accounting principles. These changes in the ordinance come to you with the unanimous support of the Employees Retirement System Board of Trustees and the Firefighters Pension Fund Board of Trustees. I urge your support. Thank you.
Tracy, thank you. Is there anybody who wanted to engage the council on this topic? Welcome.
Tim Stanga. I don't know, I had the same question that Teresa asked last week, is why do we have to deal with it right now instead of waiting a few months down the road? And I guess I'm hoping that Tracy would apologize to Teresa on how he treated her on
Tim,
just when she asked the question.
Tim, if you could just stay focused on the topic, we'd appreciate that. Welcome.
I'm David Zokaitis, and I have more of a rhetorical question because I haven't analyzed this enough to offer too much insight. But, you know, I've worked in the private industry for decades, and I've never had a pension. never even, half the time I don't even get retirement contributions from my employer. So I'm wondering why city officials get stuff that citizens frequently don't, and that is a pension. I haven't researched that enough to understand the history and all that, but I don't get a pension, and I don't see why they do. Kind of jealous.
Thank you, David. Council, any questions, comments, or motions?
Move approval, Rolfing.
Second.
Councilor Rolfing's made that motion, seconded by Councilor Selberg. Councilor Starr?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been a long process for us as a council. We've had a short amount of time, but we've spent a considerable amount of time asking questions, dealing with the local media and their interpretation of what we're trying to do. And I want to say thank you to Director Turbeck. He's answered the questions that we've asked in a timely manner. We've been skeptical and try to get our heads wrapped around it because none of us, I believe, and especially myself, are an expert in pension law by any means. It was nice having a representative from ICE Miller that was here to answer our questions. And I'm going to be supporting this, and I think it's a good move for the city. So why did we need to have you?
Yes, Councilor Selberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Welcome.
Yeah, I don't generally speak. Just to hear my voice heard, and Councilor Starr hit pretty much right what I was going to say on the head. So I think you did a nice job explaining it to all of us. I'm pretty novice in a lot of these areas, and I know you answered a few hundred questions from all different directions. So I think you did a nice job as well. I thought I'd throw that in. Thank you.
Councilor Selberg, really appreciate that. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 23.
Set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017 at 7 p.m. for item 23. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 1900 North Bonson Avenue from the AG Agriculture District to the I-2 Heavy Industrial District, petition number 5765-2016, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0.
Jason Bieber, representing Planning and Building Services. This is an application by Twin City Concrete. West Iden is located on East Rice Street, just east of North Bonson Avenue. It's roughly 5.22 acres in size. What they're looking at doing, they currently have a plant to the east of this lot. You can see it on the very east side of this map. They are looking at expanding their operation and constructing a new location at this specific site.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate that. Council, do you want to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, January 3rd for this item?
So moved, Erpenbach.
Second, Kylie.
Councilor Bach, thank you. Council Vice Chair Kylie, thank you as well. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Council, thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 24.
Set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017 at 7 p.m. for item 24. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 2600 West 57th Street from the CN Conservation District to the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar and LW Live Work Districts. Petition number 5798-2016 and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0.
The applicant here is Norm Drake. The owner is Houston Haugo. This property is located just west of I-229 and just north of 57th Street. It's roughly 11.5 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is the applicant is looking to construct a commercial office and multifamily residential development. This lot was under the old special flood hazard area. It will be coming out as part of our levee work, so they are ready to possibly start developing it now.
Jason, thank you. Councilors, would anybody want to set a date of hearing?
I would.
Thank you, Council Chair. Appreciate that.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Erickson. Thank you as well. The date of hearing is Tuesday, January 3rd. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzer?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Councilors, thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 25, please.
Set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017 at 7 p.m. for item 25. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located at the southwest corner of East 41st Street and South Veterans Parkway from the C2 Commercial, Neighborhood and Streetcar, and REC Recreational Districts to the C2 Commercial, Neighborhood and Streetcar, and REC Recreational Districts, petition number 5878-2016, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0.
The owner of this property is the City of Sioux Falls and also Harrisburg Crossing LLC. This is located just north of Harmadon Park, as you can see on here. When this parcel was platted back in the late 90s, a portion of it was platted and included some conservation area with the portion that Harrisburg LLC owned. And then the portion that our city park building is on, there's a little portion that was zoned commercial, so we're just flip-flopping those and kind of correcting the zoning out in that area.
Thank you, Jason. Councilor Staley?
Say, Jason, just a question. Now, when we're doing these rezonings because they were incorrectly listed under shape places, what kind of fee is involved with that?
This one was the planning office. We did this, all the signs, and took care of everything on this specific one. So
no fee.
No fee. Nope.
So otherwise, what's the fee?
$575 would be a rezoning fee.
$575.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councilor Staley, would you want to set a date of hearing, second reading for Tuesday, January 3rd for this item?
Sure.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Neitzert. Has been a motion to set the date of hearing. It has been seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Council Member Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzert?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Councilors, thank you. That's passed 8-0. Item 26.
Set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017 at 7 p.m. for item 26. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 3201 South Nican Court from the CN Conservation District to the RS Single Family Residential Suburban District, petition number 5957-2016, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0.
This is another application by the City of Sioux Falls Planning Office. The owners are Donald and Connie Pribble. This is located on Nican Court, just east of Southeastern Avenue. The current zoning, as you can see on this south half of this parcel, is zone conservation. That section was actually involved in a land swap with the city where the developer took the area in red that's indicated by number 2, and then he swapped that land with the city that's indicated in number 1 as part of our drainage area. For some reason, the developer then did not come back in and rezone that to single family. So we are correcting that for the owners of the property. They are looking at constructing a storage shed in that area. So.
Jason, thank you.
Move to set the date to January 3rd for second reading.
Second.
Councilor Erickson made that motion to set the date of hearing, seconded by Council Vice Chair Kiley. A roll call vote. Oh, I'm so sorry. Council Chair
okay.
Rolfing.
I just want to make sure, Jason, you said a storage building single?
Yeah, a small little storage shed, like a 10 by 10 is what
Okay.
they were looking at.
Just want to make sure it wasn't going to be storage units.
No.
Okay.
A roll call vote, please.
Council Member Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Neitzert?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 27.
Set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017 at 7 p.m. for item 27. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 601 North Duluth Avenue from RT1 Single Family Residential Traditional District to the LW Live Work District. Petition number 5963-2016, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0.
The applicant here is Matt Eltoff with the Catholic Diocese. It's 601 North Duluth Avenue. There was an existing dilapidated house that the Catholic Diocese has removed. It's 0.23 acres. The purpose of this specific rezoning is they are looking at moving an existing 3-stall garage onto that lot to utilize for their snow blowers, mowers, and things to take care of the property to the south. And then I believe their plans are to eventually possibly do a community garden on the east side of this specific lot.
Jason, thank you. Folks, would anybody want to set the date of hearing?
I'd move to set the date of hearing for
Thank
January
you, Councilor
3rd.
Starr. Appreciate it.
Second, Rolfing.
Seconded by Council Chair Rolfing. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. 28, please.
Set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017 at 7 p.m. for item 28. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located at the southeast corner of West 85th Street and South Brett Avenue from the AG Agriculture District to the RA2 Apartment Residential Moderate Density District. Petition number 5996-2016, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends the denial 6-0.
The applicant owner here is Daniel Costello. This is the one that we've seen before. It's located on 85th and Brett. Since the Planning Commission meeting, we have worked with the applicant on possibly increasing required buffer yards. Therefore, staff and the applicant are asking for you guys to remand this back to the February 1st Planning Commission meeting. We are looking at adding some additional conditions to this rezoning for some increased buffer yards on the south and east side of the property.
Jason, thank you. Councilors, would anybody want to make a motion to remand item 28 to the Planning Commission?
So moved.
And second.
Thank you. Council Chair and Vice Chair, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you, Council. Item 29.
Set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017 at 7 p.m. for item 29. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 1001 South Sertoma Avenue from the O Office District to the LW Live Work District. Petition number 5997-2016, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0.
The applicant here is Chuck Point with Ronning Companies. It's a roughly 3.5 acre site, vacant site on South Sertoma Avenue. The applicant is looking at rezoning this to the Live Work District to allow him to do some twin home, townhome type units on the perimeter of the lot, and then also construct a small office in the center portion.
Jason, thank you. Council Chair?
Question, if
Please.
I could. So I drive by that area every once in a while. It's pretty low in there, isn't it? They're going to have to put a lot of fill in, or is that one high enough?
That I'm not sure. That's something I can look into maybe for a second reading, but I'm not sure.
I would set a date for a second hearing on Tuesday, January 3rd.
Second, Selberg.
Council Chair has made that motion, seconded by Councilor Selberg. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you. Item 30.
Set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017 at 7 p.m. for item 30. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 4801 and 4901 East Grant Street from the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District to the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District. Petition number 5829-2016, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0.
The applicant here is Jeff DeYoung, and the owner is his father, Paul DeYoung. This is property located east of South Sycamore Avenue. It's 1.9 acres in size. The applicant is looking to construct an additional 8 storage unit buildings north of their existing development. They are required that 30-foot buffer yard along the north side of the property. This buffer yard will include a 6-foot screen fence and significant existing landscaping. We have contacted the applicant and worked with him a little bit. This is kind of a shot of the lot from 2014. I know some of those trees have been removed. With him to kind of get us a detailed landscape plan. He's looking at obviously saving a significant number of those mature evergreen trees and utilizing them in the required buffer yard. So he was working on a plan, and hopefully we will have that at second reading to give us a better idea of the sizes of evergreen trees that he will be preserving. The required 30-foot setback, proposed screen fence, the existing deciduous shade trees, as you can see in the right-of-way along East Grant Street. We also have the Grant Street right-of-way and those proposed relocated coniferous trees within the buffer yard. Staff does feel that that should provide the necessary screening from these proposed storage units to those single-family houses to the north of this property. And just a quick kind of overview of the entire area, you can see that this would actually fill in the commercial and kind of fill in the rest of the neighborhood. We do have C4 existing commercial to the west that is right up against single-family houses with 0 buffer yard. We think that this should fill in that entire block, and that buffer yard should provide that screening for those neighbors. So.
Thank you, Jason. Councilor Neisert.
I guess I don't even, I'm going to try to just limit, because a lot of this is not necessarily germane maybe to the rezone itself, but I did drive out there. I urge everybody, you need to go out there, you need to get out of your car, and you need to look at this. This whole area is a mess, and I'm sure there's 10 or 20 years history to this. So what about, I'm sure they didn't bring it forward, they didn't ask, but was there any discussion about residential compatible self-storage, like doing live work and doing what they were talking about? Because the example they gave, I live 2 blocks away from. So if I look out the right corner of my window, it looks like a garage to me. It doesn't look like a storage unit, and that fits.
And we've reached out to the applicant and possibly about doing on those north set of buildings, doing a more residential style in nature. I think the difference between this development and maybe the one that you live by is there was already significant existing mini storage units there. And I think the applicant feels that we've got these existing ones, we want to make them all look the same. It is really where he's coming from. We have given him that suggestion. We've said at the second reading you may get asked that to keep that maybe in mind. And he's not opposed to doing, some siding on the back side of those north buildings.
And obviously, this would not trigger anybody to put in a road back there because there would be no access, I take it. This is not going to have any requirement to do anything with that. Because you talked about Grant Street being a right-of-way. I mean, it's a single-lane dirt road. I mean, it's
66-foot right-of-way, and we do have Chad from engineering that can kind of discuss the road. The difficulty when we're looking to separate uses, we specifically, as a planning department, from a commercial to a single-family use, we prefer not to have access onto those roads. We don't want that traffic coming out here. We'd rather have it going south to Arrowhead Parkway, so we specifically asked the applicant not to have access to Grant Street, not because we didn't want him to construct it or that, just to kind of separate those uses. We really try and do that. If you have the questions on Grant Street, I know Chad's got the history on that. He could definitely answer some of them.
Yeah, and I totally get it. I don't want access either. I'm just saying it's a convenient getaway for an owner to get around putting in a road, but okay.
Thank you. And maybe if Chad could just explain that. I know we've heard a lot at the last 2 public input about the Grant Street as far as why that's not in yet. My understanding, again, hearsay, is that you have to have X amount of number of the percentage of people to sign off on it, and the particular person that owns a lot of it won't sign off on it, and that's why the street's not done. I have no idea if there's any truth to that, but I'd like to hear maybe how we get to that and how we can, I mean, last week we're talking about an annexation where the street was put in and the guy didn't ask for it. Now these people want a street and it's not coming in, so it's really interesting to me.
It is. Chad Heavey with Public Works. So Grant Street would be classified as a residential street, probably like every street that you guys live on, and those streets are built and paid for by the adjoining property owners. Yes, Grant Street is gravel. It is public right-of-way. It does contain utilities that have been put in, but there is just gravel. There's no curb and gutter. There's no street lights. There's no sidewalks. It's not built to city standard. So the process would be that if a property owner up there submitted a petition for street improvements, we would take that petition and evaluate it, and typically would say if we had 50% support, so if the south half was in favor of the road or the north half was in favor, we would look at that and say, you know, this is a petition that's it seems right, it seems approved, it seems we'll bring it forward to the city council. So then we would bring it to you and and we'd go through a resolution of necessity, which would mean you're giving us the authority to use city dollars to build that road, but the plan is to come back in the future and then assess those costs to the adjoining property owners. We've always kind of set that threshold at 50% because state law talks about if 55% of the property owners were not in support of the resolution, they could protest that out. And so that's why we've always talked about this. You know, if we were over even 46%, that'd be 46 in support and 54 against, they could not protest that out. Now there's been some language added to the state law that even if we had 25% support constructing Grant Street and 75% protested that out, the city council by a majority vote could void that protest and we could proceed with the construction of the street and the assessment of those costs to those property owners. You know, it's about 165 feet. I mean, it's real money, though, when we talk about who's going to pay for it. And so we would, the DeYoungs on the south side would, or the south side would get assessed. There's a DeYoung on the north side. The Buckmiller's relative is there to the west of them. And then the people, of course, on the west side there would also be assessed for those costs. So today we do not have a petition for those improvements, but we also are discussing that with the Youngs, and we'll have more information at the second reading.
All right, thank you. And then if I can I have one more follow-up, not for you, Chad, but maybe for Jason or Mr. Fifley. What, as far as options to ensuring that those trees stay, that the fence is, I mean, we've heard a lot of concerns to making sure that the fence is X amount of feet from the property, making sure the trees are mature trees and will be mature in our lifetime versus a shrub that's put in, so to speak. Are those options that we can add in and remand back to the Planning Commission?
You can put some conditions on the rezoning. I think it's important to note, though, the buffer yard does have requirements for sizes of trees that have to be in there. You get units. You have to have so many units. You get credit for units of trees, so an evergreen has to be a minimum of 6 feet to be able to count it as a tree. If it's less than that, then it would be a bush, which is obviously a far less. So we have those things built in to require him to do units to be able to get those trees. The fence, that is a minimum of 6 feet. That doesn't mean the applicant can't install something up to 8 feet if he would like to. That is our minimum. And that fence has to be within somewhere in that 30-foot buffer yard. It doesn't specifically say it can be here or there. For something like this, I know we did have testimony that they didn't want the fence right by the buildings. Sometimes it works better, though, to be able to have the backs of the buildings, then have a fence, and then actually have those mature trees on the other side of the fence. We feel that it provides a better screen. Now, if the adjoining property owners want something different, that's something that the applicant, I'm sure he's not opposed to moving the fence or working with them to do something different. But we have some of those things that you're discussing already built into the Shade Places zoning ordinance.
Thank you.
Councilor Staley?
Well, and let me just make a comment about this whole process. I am deeply grateful those neighbors came in and spoke to us, because right now I'm hearing you talk a lot about what the applicant wants and kind of representing the applicant's point of view. If we had not heard from those neighbors tonight, and they also spoke last week, we wouldn't have as much information to work with as we're getting ready for the second reading. So I think it's very important that that side of it gets to be heard before the second reading.
Councilor Rolfing?
Jason, I'm going to encourage you to get these parties together before we come back for second reading to see if we can they can come up with a plan that they can both agree on how high the fence should be, where the trees should be set, what kind of buffer, you know, the whole thing, so it looks, because that was one of the things they said was You know, we'd be happy with an 8-foot fence. We'd be happy if they move those trees, those bigger trees, don't plant. If we can get that together, it'll make everyone's life a lot easier.
Yep.
So
and-
I would encourage you to do that.
Yep. And we've engaged the applicant to kind of voice the concerns of the neighbors, and he's working on a plan to hopefully alleviate some of those concerns.
Super.
But
Thank
Councilor Mbach?
That isn't what I heard those neighbors say. They would not be happy with this. I would like, if I could, Chad, if you could come up to the podium again. To Councilor Staley's point, some of us who have been on the council a little longer have spent some time with the Buckmillers, and we understand in part the history of this. I'd like you to, for all of us, remind us the history of why these people have a gravel road, why it is that they feel like, and I think the words he used were stomped on and kicked to the curb tonight. Why do these people feel that way, and what's the history of this, as Councilor Neitzer said, this really weird mess up there? Because it is a mess.
Okay, here is just, again, another aerial view of this area. Okay, the Buckmillers live in the property that's in blue. And those streets that are in yellow, and I'm talking about the streets that are north of Grant Street, were vacated in 2004. So everything in yellow is vacated right-of-way that has now been turned back to personal property. And you can see that Grant Street is public right-of-way. Detroit Street on the west is public right-of-way, but everything else today is private property. Now, when the Buckmillers built their home, their driveway is as it looks today. It went to Grant through the property owners south their driveway. So they have always used that gravel path to access Grant Street. They've never ever went to Taylor Street to get in and out of their property. Okay, so in the period of 2004, the property to the north came in and said, we want to build this cul-de-sac. And you can see on the west there is Taylor Circle. That was Taylor Street, and the plan was that they'd build this cul-de-sac, and it would come up and it'd be called Taylor Circle. Part of the plan was to vacate all of those streets in yellow. And then the developer would build Taylor Circle, and right where you see that number 30, where it says item 30, that is where the Buckmillers live. And under this scenario, they would have had a paved street, Taylor Circle, very close to their property. And at that point, they would have went to the north to Taylor Circle and out. So the plans were all in work. Of course, the Buckmillers had to sign the petition to vacate because everybody that joins the right-of-way has to sign that before we'll bring it to council. The streets were vacated, the right-of-way was vacated. Shortly thereafter, the developer realized that there was wetlands, I'd say in that northeast corner of his proposed subdivision, and he was not in a position to financially mitigate those wetlands and deal with them how he was supposed to. And so that basically shut the subdivision down. Now, looking back on it, we maybe should have waited to vacate the streets, but that's been done. So I have spent a lot of time with the Buckmillers, if you could go back. So one option that I gave them was we could, if the property to the south of them would grant them an access easement, we could then address them off of Grant Street. They didn't like that idea because they still would, Grant Street still isn't paved. They'd still have a gravel driveway. Then I talked about maybe we'll go back to Taylor Street. We will ask that the property owners rededicate that right-of-way. That was potentially a viable option, but again, that would not get them Taylor Street built. They still would have to come down to Grant without the adjoining property owners building Taylor Street. So there's a long history to this. You know, I think I've offered them a couple viable solutions to get them an address, and it just hasn't come to fruition.
So, if I might, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate it, Chad. It's important for us as a council to understand the history behind this. This couple is very frustrated with city government, and there isn't a whole lot that we can do for them. But it's important for us to have, I think, to filter our conversations through that history as well. So I appreciate you bringing that forward for us.
If I could too, we do some, we take our motor graders out and do some grading of the gravel road during the summertime, like we do with the other, you know, we have probably 20 centerline miles of gravel roads in the city where people are living on, and that's probably not including other gravel roads that we maintain. Also, he made a comment that he has been taking care of the snow removal. That is probably correct. I did some checking today. I drove out today because I assumed that if it was plowed, it would be plowed right now with the recent snow. And the contractor that plows this area assumed it was a private street because it's very narrow. But the street department has talked to the contractor. They have a narrower piece of equipment that they're going to go use to plow the street from here on out. So
To clarify then, it is city responsibility to plow the snow there, and it just hasn't quite been happening lately?
The problem is there isn't a very good place to turn around.
Okay.
So typically on something like this, we would want a hammerhead or a cul-de-sac built so they could turn around. Today they did go into Mr. DeYoung's driveway, but it was a much smaller piece of equipment. And our larger equipment, our typical motor graders, they have delineators out there kind of to separate the gravel from the grass, and we would probably make a mess. But Merlin Royce will use a smaller piece of equipment.
Okay, thank you.
Council Vice Chair Conley.
Thank you. I have 2 points that I guess I'd like to make. Well, first one, I think the trees. There's been some comment about removal of mature trees, replacing them with smaller trees in the area. Number one, is that true? Number two, if it is true, were the trees removed and then replaced with smaller ones in what would be the proposed buffer zone for this project?
I have asked the applicant that, and they did sell some of the trees. I can't remember the number, I think like 50 or so, and replace them with smaller trees. That specific area, though, under the old ordinance, it wouldn't have been required to have a buffer yard there. The new one, obviously, when they construct, or if they're approved and they construct these storage units, they will be required the buffer yard, and they will be required to put those number of units in. And as I indicated before, the only ones that would count would be an evergreen tree taller, 6 foot or taller.
The only ones that would count would be 6 foot or taller. So they could put a 6 foot tree, but the ones that were removed were how tall?
I'm assuming they were pretty mature trees. I think they were selling them. I think they utilized that as a tree farm kind of a deal.
And I'm still a little confused. Were they removed from the area that would serve as the buffer?
I think they've removed some from the whole site, yes. I would assume that some of them have been removed from the buffer yard.
And I have some concern over that. Then my second point was it's currently zoned for twin home duplex residential. Obviously, if you're going to have twin home duplexes, you're going to have the pitched asphalt roofs. And that's what you would expect if you're the homeowner to the south of that particular area right now. So I'm not saying which way I'm going to go on this, but it seems like a fairly reasonable request to maybe, if there are going to be storage units there, that they would resemble the way it's currently zoned.
Sure.
That's it.
Jason, doesn't normally the applicant show up at the first reading in something this controversial?
Not at the first reading, just because it's not a public hearing. So.
All right. because I think it's important, Council, to understand, Jason's not advocating for the party. He's kind of the conduit in terms of trying to relay what he's hearing from the applicant as well as from people that have concerns. So, Jason, as you can sense, there's still work that the council would like to have done before the meeting, if they do set a second reading, and I hope they do. Good luck with that. Councilor Neisert?
I want to say I do appreciate the context, and I'm really glad that Councilor Erpenbach did set the table for that. I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole because I think a lot of this is really almost separate from the rezone issue. I mean, but I do want to know, since you're here, was that portion of Grant Street ever paved?
No, if you, now Detroit is on our right, so Detroit running north and south is paved, but that portion of Grant Street has been a gravel road for as long as I know.
Is that just I'm just curious how homes got built there and how a home would get built with no access. If that Buckmiller house never had an access, or if it didn't, it got torn out.
No, I don't believe it did, and I don't know if when that house was built, it's probably, and we can find this out, it's probably in that 20 to 30-year-old range.
Okay, it was before you maybe had certain standards in place. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I'm today, if that house was built, they would need a paved driveway.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So I guess the only thing I would say is forgetting the road, forgetting all this access stuff, really, I'm just worried about the buffer issue, that the existing buffer that's there, we're talking about encroaching on that, and right now it's a little buffer they have. So,
Councilors, would anybody want to set a date hearing second reading for Tuesday, January 3rd for this item?
So moved, Erpenbach.
Second, Kiley.
Councilor Buck, thank you. Council Vice Chair Kiley, thank you as well. A roll call vote, please.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, I just want to
thank you very much, Tom.
The vote count that's reflected at the end of the agenda item is incorrect. It should read 5-1. It was still recommended for denial, but it should read 5-1. That'll be reflected in the minutes and at the second reading.
For approval.
Approval, I'm sorry.
Good job, Tom. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Selberg?
No.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
No.
Erickson?
No.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Neitzer?
No.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Mayor votes yes. That is passed 5-4. Item 31.
Set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017 at 7 p.m. for item 31. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending 157.115 of the Code of Ordinances of the city pertaining to minimum subdivision improvements. Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0.
Good evening, Chad Hebe with the Engineering Division of Public Works. This proposed ordinance is in regards to street access in residential developments and is not related to secondary access for emergency vehicles. Under this ordinance, residential developments served by one street access would need to provide a second street access prior to reaching a traffic volume of 980 vehicles on the main access. The traffic volumes would be calculated using standard trip generation rates of 9.52 trips for a single-family home and 6.65 trips per day for a multifamily unit. Using these rates, one access would support 103 single-family homes, 147 multifamily units, or a combination of both. Prior to meeting that threshold of 980 vehicles, a second access would be required, a minimum of 24 feet wide, gravel surfaced with dust control, or hard surfaced. The Director of Planning and Building Services and the City Engineer are authorized to interpret the ordinance, enforce the ordinance, or grant waivers. The ordinance is supported by the Home Builders Association of the Sioux Empire. On June 14th, the Public Service Committee recommended this ordinance be taken to the Infrastructure Review Advisory Board, the Planning Commission, and then the City Council. The Infrastructure Review Advisory Board approved this ordinance on August 8th. Planning Commission approved this ordinance on December 7th, and I am happy to answer any of your questions.
Thanks, Jason. Councilor Erickson?
Thank you. This is a long time coming. I think I was just elected, and Councilor Kiley and myself, and we went through the Canterbury Heights neighborhood issue. As we worked through this was really a safeguard to making sure something like that doesn't happen again. There's been, like you said, lots of meetings with Public Service Committee as well as the home builders, and what you see today has changed many times. There's been many compromises along the way, and allowing flexibility to making sure that we're not offering a burdensome ordinance on the books for builders and making it difficult for them. Again, this is a worst case scenario to just give a minimum standard so what we lived through a couple years ago doesn't happen again, but does give flexibility to Mr. Heavey and his crew. So I hope that you all support this, as it's really been vetted more than I ever imagined. So thank you for your work on this. I appreciate it, and we'll see where it goes. Thank you.
Councilor Erickson, we'll continue the discussion, but would you mind setting a date of hearing, second reading for Tuesday, January 3rd for this item?
Move to set the date to Tuesday, January 3rd.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. Any, Councilor Starr, we'll give it to you. Thank you. Any further discussion, folks? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Neitzert?
Yes.
Rolfing?
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. Item 32.
Set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017 at 7 p.m. for item 32. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 157, Subdivisions, and Appendix C of Chapter 157, Subdivision Construction Agreement. Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0.
This proposed ordinance is also a part of the subdivision ordinance, and it is regard to the subdivision construction agreement. That agreement is a contract entered into by a developer in the city, by which the developer warrants and promises to complete the required public infrastructure improvements in the subdivision within a specified time period. This subdivision construction agreement went into effect of January of 2013, and since then we have executed approximately 200 of these agreements as Sioux Falls has developed. The proposed revision is to change the word developer to responsible party. The responsible party could be a developer, it could be a landowner, or any other party that would be taking responsibility for the construction of the public improvements. This change does allow more flexibility in the use of this agreement by changing that language. The proposed change was approved by the Infrastructure Review Advisory Board on November 2nd and the Planning Commission on December 7th.
Chad, thank you very much. Council? Thank you, Council. Yes, thank you, Council Vice Chair. Thank you, Chair. Person, appreciate that. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Neitzert?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Councilors, thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 33, please.
A resolution removing uncollectible delinquent accounts from the records.
Tracy, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. City ordinance requires that before uncollectible delinquent accounts with a balance of $5,000 or more can be written off, that must come to the council for approval. Those of you that were on the council last year in December might recall that we brought forward a list of about 1.5 pages long of such accounts for write-off. That list was quite long because that hadn't been presented to the council for some time. So it was last year was an exercise in kind of cleaning up some very old uncollectible accounts. So this year, the resolution before you includes 7 accounts where we're requesting you to write those off. The first is an account for uncollectible landfill fees. The next 2 relate to utility, a water and electricity account, and then the last 4 relate to our affordable housing program, where there were loans provided that were eventually deemed to be uncollectible. I've provided some background information on all those to you previously. If you've got specific questions about any of these, I'd certainly be willing to take a stab at answering those, but there are others here as well that can back me up.
Tracy, thank you. Anyone in the audience want to speak to these items? Council?
Move approval, Rolfing.
Second, Urban
Councilor Rolfing, thank you. Councilor Bach, thank you as well. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Nitzert.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Item 34, please.
A resolution approving the release of a permanent utility and drainage easement located in Lot 14 and a permanent utility easement located in Lot 12, all in Block 6 of Auburn Hills Addition to the City of Sioux Falls, Lincoln County, South Dakota.
So this drainage easement is north of 85th Street and east of Louise Avenue, near the intersection of Bitterroot Street and Russet Drive. The property owner has requested that this drainage and utility easement be released. When the lots were platted, this was platted as two separate lots, and you can see that these easements were platted on all of the lot lines. Subsequently, the property owner requesting this also bought the lot to the south of him. And so he is requesting that we release that easement in yellow. We have reviewed the request, determined the easements are not needed, and we are recommending that they be released.
Thanks, Chad. Did anybody want to speak to this item? Councilor Bach.
Just clarify, Chad, does that mean that the drainage issue isn't there? Explain, I'm maybe just not understanding why we would give up that. I mean, isn't it because there might be a drainage issue that we would have an easement there?
Either drainage or a private utility.
Right.
And there were some private utility issues that have been resolved, and we have determined that the drainage easement is not needed to convey drainage in this area.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Move approval, Erickson.
Thank you, Councilor.
Second, Erpenbach.
Thank you, Councilor Bach. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Nitzert.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Councilors, thank you very much. That's passed 8-0. Item 35, please.
A resolution of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rescheduling the business of the city from the scheduled city council meeting for Tuesday, February 7, 2017 to Monday, February 6, 2017.
Jim.
Good evening, Jim David again with the City Council office. This change would allow City Council participation at Municipal Day at the legislature.
Move to approve, Erickson.
Second, Erpenbach.
Sorry.
Very good. Is everybody in the audience want to speak to this? Thank you. Councilor Erickson made that motion, seconded by Council Chair Rolfing. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Nitzert.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Councilor Sangy, that is passed 8-0. Sioux Falls, that is now 9-10. Your part-time city council has been here at least since 4, probably earlier. They want to celebrate the holidays with their families just like you do.
No meetings next week.
No meetings next week, Sioux Falls, so we'll be back in January, all of us.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Councilor.
Second.
Seconded by Council Chair Rolfing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?